time for talk is over.
Look, we can all agree that the 1987 Masters of the Universe film did not give longtime fans the adaptation they had hoped for. Dolph Lundgren looked like he had walked straight out of an Eternian gem, but the movie made major changes to the established mythology, spent most of its runtime on Earth, and pushed many familiar characters and locations into the background. The film performed poorly during its original release and received harsh reviews, although it has developed a cult following over the years. Then on June 5th, 2026, Mattel and Amazon MGM Studios finally brought Masters of the Universe back to theaters. Directed by Travis Knight, the new film starred Nicholas Galitzine as Prince Adam and He-Man. Personally, I saw it as the apology longtime fans had been waiting for. The story embraced Eternia, the cast fit the characters, and the film treated the world with far more affection than its live-action predecessor. But the movie also created one enormous gap in its timeline. Prince Adam was separated from Eternia for 15 years. When he finally returned, Skeletor had conquered his home and transformed the kingdom into something almost unrecognizable. The film showed us the beginning and the eventual return of He-Man, but it left many questions about what happened in Eternia while Adam was gone. That is where Dark Horse's 4-issue miniseries He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, The Wings of Fate comes in. Written by Tim Sheridan, illustrated by Will Sliney, colored by Israel Silva, and lettered by And World Design, the comic is set in the universe of the 2026 film. Its first issue was released on June 10th, 2026, and most importantly, it finally gives Orko the spotlight. Orko appears only briefly in the movie's post-credit material, where he delivers a Filmation-style moral lesson. The Wings of Fate goes much further by exploring his life as a refugee and revealing how he first became connected to Zor and the Sorceress. So, why don't we jump right in? A kind-hearted refugee. The story begins on Eternia, described as the center of creation and a beacon of hope for the universe. It is a world where science and magic coexist. At the heart of Eternia stands the city of Eternos, a place associated with peace, prosperity, and the belief that even the weakest person should be given the opportunity to become a hero. But that peaceful image is about to be destroyed. Before Skeletor's forces launch their attack, we meet Orko. He is a young Trollan refugee attempting to earn food by entertaining the people of Eternos with magic. Orko gathers a crowd and announces that he will pull a terrifying wild griffin from the hat of a random spectator. He performs the spell with confidence, but instead of producing a griffin, Orko pulls out a squink, a tiny blue Eternian creature. The audience is not impressed. People begin walking away while Orko desperately explains that his magic does not work properly on Eternia. On Trolla, he may have been capable of far more impressive feats. On Eternia, his spells refuse to cooperate. Nobody stays long enough to listen. Even worse, nobody leaves a tip in his goblet. The scene immediately establishes the version of Orko this comic wants us to understand. He is clumsy, he is struggling, but he is also trying to provide for his family. Orko is not performing because he wants attention. He is supposed to return to the refugee camp with food. Instead, he has earned nothing and accidentally acquired another hungry creature. Orko finds the squink. After the failed performance, Orko notices that squink has begun following him. He tells the creature that it cannot come back to the camp. Food is already scarce, and the last thing his family needs is another mouth to feed. Orko is also under strict instructions not to reveal the location of the hidden Trollan settlement. The refugees have deliberately avoided drawing attention to themselves. Orko fears that if the elders discover he has broken the rules again, they may punish or confine him. But the squink refuses to leave. Orko tries to scare it away. He tries to reason with it, and when none of that works, his kindness defeats his common sense. He places the creature inside his backpack and decides to take it home. That decision tells us almost everything we need to know about him. Orko may complain about responsibility, but he cannot abandon something that needs help. And before he can even reach the camp, that instinct is tested again. The falcon falls from the sky. While traveling back to the settlement, Orko sees a magnificent falcon fall from the sky and crash into the ground. The bird is badly injured and unable to fly. Orko could leave it. He is already returning home without food, carrying one forbidden creature inside his bag. Helping the falcon will only create another problem. Naturally, Orko picks it up. He tells the squink and the injured bird the rules of his home. they must remain hidden inside his room. They cannot make any noise, and they cannot tell anyone where they are going because the people of Eternia do not know that the Trollan refugee camp exists. Orko believes he is rescuing an ordinary bird. He has no idea that the falcon is Zor, the animal form connected to the sorceress. He also does not know that somebody is watching him. Through a crystal ball, Evil-Lyn observes Orko carrying the wounded falcon toward the hidden camp. Orko's attempt to perform one small act of kindness has just placed every Trollan refugee in danger. Skeletor takes Eternos. While Orko returns home, Skeletor has already launched his assault. Eternos has fallen. Castle Grayskull has also come under his control, but Skeletor is far from satisfied. He complains about the castle's cold, stale, and unpleasant environment. The Great Fortress may contain the most powerful magic in Eternia, but Skeletor sees no reason to remain there while he is unable to unlock its full potential. The one person who understands how to access that power is the sorceress. Unfortunately for Skeletor, she escaped by taking the form of a falcon. When Evil-Lyn arrives, Skeletor criticizes her failure to locate the fugitive. Evil-Lyn reminds him that he allowed the sorceress to escape in her avian form, but she now believes she has found a lead. Skeletor orders her to follow it. He wants the sorceress captured or killed, along with anyone helping her. Rather than remain inside Castle Grayskull, Skeletor decides to rule from Snake Mountain. His possessions are already there, the place better suits his personality, and he has no intention of moving everything into a freezing ancient fortress. Even in the middle of a conquest, Skeletor remains gloriously dramatic and petty. Life inside the Trollan refugee camp. Back at the hidden settlement, Orko asks his mother for 3 portions of food. His mother, Aura, immediately reminds him that their rations are limited. His father, Ollum, offers Orko his own portion of Eternian root mush. Unfortunately, Aura points out that Ollum has already eaten. Orko becomes frustrated. He is tired of living as a refugee. He wants to return to Trolla, where his family did not struggle for food or live in constant fear of discovery. His uncle Montork has repeatedly sent word that the invaders who drove them from their home have left. Orko cannot understand why they still have to remain on Eternia. His parents explain that the council is working to determine whether Trolla is truly safe. Returning too quickly could place every refugee in danger again. Orko is told to be patient. Like most children, he does not find that answer particularly satisfying. He takes the bowl of root mush and demands privacy in his room. Naturally, that makes his parents immediately suspicious. They follow him and discover the squink and the wounded falcon. Orko expects punishment. Instead, his parents notice that the bird is badly hurt. Despite their limited food and dangerous circumstances, Aura and Ollum share their son's instinct to help those in need. They summon a Trollan physician named Dr. Blizzwit. The falcon is touched by black magic. Dr. Blizzwit examines the falcon with great curiosity and respect. She believes she may have seen the same extraordinary bird flying over Eternia before. Aura worries that the creature could be dangerous. Orko reminds his mother that she taught him never to ignore somebody who needs help. Dr. Blizzwit discovers that the falcon's injuries were caused by black magic. It is a form of magic unfamiliar to the Trollans and may be native to Eternia. Unfortunately, Blizzwit cannot heal the wounds. Orko suggests taking the bird to a healer in Eternos, but the city has already been invaded. That is when the Trollans realize how quickly the political situation outside their hidden camp has changed. They wonder whether the same enemies who drove them from Trolla have now attacked Eternia. Blizzwit does not know. The invasion happened too quickly for reliable information to reach the refugees. Aura tells Orko that this is precisely why he was forbidden from leaving the camp. By exposing himself to the city, he could have led dangerous people directly to their home. Orko defends his decision. If he had obeyed the rules, Zor might have died alone. His parents immediately notice the name. They ask how Orko knows the falcon is called Zor. Orko reveals that the bird spoke to him telepathically, and she did not communicate in an unfamiliar language. She spoke in High Trollan. Zor reveals her mission. Zor tells Orko that she must reach the Avianians, a winged people who live near the highest peaks of the Mystic Mountains. Aura becomes even more suspicious. Ordinary falcons do not speak telepathically, especially not in High Trollen. Olam suggests that perhaps unusual talking birds are simply normal on Eternia. Orko insists that they must help her. Zor is injured, alone, and being hunted. Dr. Blizwit explains that an expedition outside the settlement would require the permission of the Trollen Council. The refugees cannot risk revealing themselves to the people of Eternia. Orko begins arguing that Eternians are not barbarians. Before he can finish the sentence, a voice echoes throughout the camp. Someone demands that the Trollens surrender the falcon immediately. Evil-Lyn has found them. Evil-Lyn attacks the camp. The Trollens rush outside and find Evil-Lyn accompanied by Trapjaw and a group of mechanical soldiers. Evil-Lyn threatens to erase the entire refugee population unless Zor is surrendered. She speaks in High Trollen, proving that she has come prepared to communicate and intimidate. Dr. Blizwit attempts to negotiate with her. That goes about as well as anyone familiar with Evil-Lyn would expect. Evil-Lyn uses her power to throw Blizwit into a tree. Orko's parents warn her that attacking the Trollens could start a war. Evil-Lyn finds the threat more adorable than intimidating. But the refugees are far more capable than she expects. Unlike Orko, many of the adult Trollens possess reliable magical abilities. They drench Evil-Lyn's robots with water, causing the machines to short-circuit. Another spell causes a flower to grow inside Trapjaw's mechanical arm. When he attempts to fire the weapon, it backfires and throws him into a tree. The Trollens may be refugees, they may be hungry and hiding, but they are not helpless. Still, Orko understands that Evil-Lyn will not stop. As long as Zor remains in the camp, the entire community will remain a target. Orko learns who Zor really is. Zor tells Orko that Evil-Lyn and Skeletor's forces want only her. If she reaches the Mystic Mountains, the attackers may leave the Trollen settlement alone. Zor opens a portal leading toward the mountains, but Orko refuses to let her travel alone. She is wounded and cannot fly. The path to the Avianians will be dangerous, even for somebody in perfect health. Zor explains that protecting Eternia is her responsibility. She must prevent its power from falling permanently into evil hands, regardless of the suffering involved. That is when Orko finally understands that he has not rescued an ordinary skybird. Zor is connected to something far greater. She is the sorceress in her transformed state, the guardian Skeletor desperately wants to capture. Orko also realizes that Zor has nobody helping her. That is all he needs to know. She cannot formally ask him to risk his life. Orko tells her that she does not need to ask. He will help because she is alone, injured, and in danger. Holding Zor in one arm and carrying the squink with him, Orko steps through the portal. He promises his parents that he will return soon. Naturally, the Mystic Mountains do not appear particularly welcoming. The moment Orko arrives, he is confronted by snarling winged creatures. His journey has only just begun. Why this version of Orko works? Oh, sweet, kind-hearted Orko. They could never make me hate you. I absolutely loved the first issue of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, The Wings of Fate. Orko has often been reduced to an annoying side character who cannot control his spells or stop interfering in other people's problems. But this comic understands what makes him special. He is not brave because he believes he will win. He is brave because somebody needs help and he cannot convince himself to walk away. Orko barely knows Zor. He has spent only a few hours with her, but she is alone, she is wounded, and dangerous people are hunting her. That is enough for Orko to risk everything. The refugee background also gives his character additional emotional weight. He understands what it means to lose a home. He understands hunger, fear, and isolation. So when he encounters another displaced and injured being, helping her becomes almost instinctive. That does not make him foolish. It makes him compassionate. The issue's artwork and pacing. Tim Sheridan writes Orko with obvious affection. His dialogue feels playful without turning him into a joke. He is young, impulsive, and occasionally ridiculous, but he is never presented as useless. I could almost hear Orko's familiar voice while reading his lines. Will Sliney's artwork also does an excellent job of translating the visual world of the 2026 film into comic book form. The issue balances large Eternian environments environments with smaller emotional moments inside the Trollan camp. Israel Silva's coloring gives Eternos, Snake Mountain, Trollan Magic, and the Mystic Mountains distinct visual identities. The pacing is also well controlled. The story does not rush directly into the attack. It gives us time to understand Orko's failed performance, his family, the refugee community, and the reasons he feels compelled to help Zor. But it also does not take so long that the issue becomes uneventful. By the end, Skeletor has conquered Eternos, Evil-Lyn has discovered the Trollans, Zor's identity has become clear, and Orko has crossed into hostile territory. As Goldilocks would say, it is just right. What could happen in Issue 2? Issue 2 is scheduled to continue Orko and Zor's journey to the Avianians. The winged creatures waiting in the Mystic Mountains clearly suggest that Orko will not receive a peaceful welcome. We also know that Evil-Lyn and Trapjaw survived the confrontation at the camp. They are unlikely to stop searching simply because Zor escaped through a portal. Skeletor still needs the Sorceress in order to unlock the deeper power of Grayskull. That means Orko has accidentally placed himself at the center of one of the most important conflicts in Eternia. It is possible that Zor will help Orko better understand how his magic functions in this world. His spells may not be weak. They may simply be responding differently to Eternia's magical laws. We may also see more of the Avianians and learn how their connection to the Sorceress fits into the film's history. As for Beastman, Triclops, or Skeletor's other followers appearing, that remains speculation. But Evil-Lyn and Trapjaw now know exactly who is helping Zor. Orko has made himself their enemy, whether he intended to or not. The Wings of Fate #1 gives Orko something the 2026 movie could not give him: time. The film included him only briefly after the main story, but the comic turns him into the emotional center of its own adventure. He is a refugee who cannot provide enough food for his family. His magic fails in front of strangers. His people live in hiding, and despite all of that, he still chooses to help someone more vulnerable than himself. That is the Orko I have always wanted to see. Not merely comic relief, not an incompetent magician, a genuinely good person whose courage comes from compassion rather than power. The issue also begins filling in the history of Eternia after Skeletor's siege, although we should not assume that 4 issues will explain every event from the entire 15-year gap. For now, the series is focused on Orko, Zor, and the dangerous journey toward the Mystic Mountains. And honestly, that is more than enough to keep me excited. What do you think will happen in Issue 2? Will Zor help Orko master his magic? Will the Avianians trust him? And how long will it take Evil-Lyn to track them down again? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I will return with more awesome Masters of the Universe content. But until then, goodbye!